few more minutes, but I hope everybody is doing well tonight. This is the first ever growth lab we've done. Our hope was to make Minnie Lee the guinea pig, and then we would just figure out whatever the rest of us need to know as we lead these growth labs later on. But my name is Ben Pilgreen, super excited that you're here. You're in for a treat tonight. Minnie Lee is not only a great friend to me, but a person that I get a ton of financial wisdom from as well. Minnie's done this over 20 years in the corporate world. She's got undergrad from Rutgers. Come on, see, I'm going to talk her up right here. Just big. We're going to get the head big. She's the most humble person I know, but she's got an MBA from UCLA. She's been in finance for Fox Media, business strategy and development for Disney, the Walt Disney Company. She was director of finance for an environmental startup. Should we keep going? And then after doing all of those low-level jobs, she now is the administrative director for Epic Church and has finally got, you know how everybody searches for their dream job? Minnie has that now, and she oversees everything financial for us. She is very humble. She's super knowledgeable. She could tell you other stories, but I'm going to assume she probably won't gloat about herself. I'm excited. Tonight, Minnie's going to talk to us about how we can understand what our finances might need to look like in the current season we find ourselves in. So for whatever reason that you're here, welcome. As she goes along and you guys have questions, feel free to drop the questions in the chat. I'll moderate those, make sure that we are able to bring some of those questions back to her at the end of the night. But let me pray for us. I know other people are still hopping on. Let me pray for us. And then Minnie, any introductions you want to make before you get into your presentation? Let's pray. God, thank you that you are still present with us in the middle of this pandemic season. God, thank you that you care for us. Jesus, you said so much about money and our treasure and our possessions. All of us are in different places, but we're all asking perhaps similar questions about what does this mean? What do I do? Do I even know the right questions to ask? But God, I pray that you would be near. God, I pray that you would empower Minnie to share the wisdom that you've given to her, through her tonight. God, I pray that we would learn things that would be beneficial for us, for our families, for the communities that we're part of. And God, I pray that you would use it in a mighty way. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, welcome everybody. Minnie Lee, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Yeah, good to have you guys. Good to see you. Hey, I just want to add to Ben's gracious introduction just about why I may be even standing here with you sharing this. Back in January 2011, this is where I was financially. I was making a good amount of money. I was working at Disney at that time. Personally, you know, while doing corporate finance and all that jazz, you know, I would say personally I was managing through my personal finances pretty well. I mean, managing through meaning like, oh, I made it work. Underneath that, however, you know, I had debt. I had mortgage, I had car loans, I also had credit card debt. And at that time, the property that I used to live in, this was back in Los Angeles, was depreciated. It was after the mortgage crisis, and things have not improved. Fast forward that to March 2015. I was making less money. I was working at the startup that Ben also mentioned in San Francisco. In fact, I was jobless for 2 months at that time. However, underneath that, I was debt-free. I was giving more. I had savings in my bank. I had sold off the property. And although I had some unanticipated medical needs, my budget was still able to absorb those costs. Now, in between those two kind of opposite situations, what happened? What happened is what I'm going to share with you about today. And my greatest hope and prayer for you is that, after we go through this, that you will find the encouragement and the excitement to try something new and see what happens. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can somebody tell me if they can see it? Okay, great. So
Yes.
the intro. Awesome, thank you. All right. So before we talk about all the changes that we are experiencing right now, hey, I just want to start us off with, so what are the unchanging foundations when it comes to financial management? We're going to talk about two things, two large things. So one is that God is our provider and we are his stewards. It's so easy for us to think that we're so dependent on our employer, but ultimately, God is our provider, and thank God for that. So we trust God with our finances, and we hear this a lot. We talk about trusting God with our finances. However, what's really beautiful to me is that he actually entrusts us with his resources. So this trust is mutual. So I want us to keep thinking how God invites us into this trusting relationship when it comes to money. And as Christians, our financial decisions are made and can be made based on God's wisdom for our finances. Because God talks about money, God cares about how we manage money, God has a will for how we use our resources. And I know there are some of you here who are not believers, that probably means you're off the hook. However, I would love for you to just keep listening to see, hey, what could be useful for you that you can adopt in your financial planning. So there are so many Bible verses when it comes to, finances, but I want to just talk about 5 of those. First is God knows all our needs. It's in Matthew 6:31 to 32 when he talks about, hey, don't worry about what we shall eat, what you should wear, because God knows all our needs. The second is that we honor God with our first fruits. That's in Proverbs 3:9. The third one is, it is more a blessing. It is even more of a blessing to give than to receive. The fourth one is from Proverbs 11:24. It says, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. I love that. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. And the last one is about debt. God actually compares indebtedness to slavery. It's kind of harsh, but I think it's somewhat true. It says the borrower is slave to the lender. I can relate to this because, like I mentioned before, I was in debt before, and it just kept me from making a lot of other good financial decisions or making life decisions. And the funny thing is, I think I played with that because in corporate finance, just being a finance geek here, there's this theory about how a value of a company can be increased if you actually add leverage to your capital structure. And that I let that get to me, and I tried to get really smart with it, and that did not turn out well. All right, moving on. The second one I want to talk to you about is, hey, so what is the main goal of all this? Hey, managing our finances is great, and we want to do a good job. We want to be responsible. But what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal here is to live a generous life. And I know what some of you are thinking, or maybe all of you. Hey, I thought this workshop was about budgeting and how we can manage through this tough times? Yes, it is. And you might think, well, why are you talking about generous and giving? Is this is all about giving to the church? The answer is no. And it's because I want to define for all of us here what generosity means. And I love this definition of generosity. It's not by me, it's by Andy Stanley. And in one of his sermon series, he defines generosity as the premeditated, calculated, and designated emancipation, big words, of personal assets, which leads to financial freedom. Okay, what does financial freedom mean besides being debt-free? Let's think about a situation. Have you ever felt like just guilty or just bad because you're spending money? Or you feel guilty because, there's this nonprofit that asks you if you can give, but you have to say no. Actually, if our finances are premeditated and planned out and things are designated, when we have to spend on something that will enrich your family relationship or help you get organized in the house, spending is not a bad thing. And you don't have to feel any guilt about it. Same with giving. If you know where some of your money is going towards giving, it's okay to say no to some other requests, maybe until a later time or maybe never, because you're like, hey, I know where I'm giving and I can say no without feeling any guilt. We'll get more into that, but I just wanted to really touch on this so that we understand the meaning of financial freedom in a larger sense. Okay, so when it comes to premeditating, calculating, and designating, hey, this basically means planning. It's budgeting. Now here, I want to share with you something that has literally changed my life. This was groundbreaking for me. So let me get right to it. So there is a thing called order of budgeting that I was not aware of. And according to God's principles and some of the Bible verses we went through before, here's the order that I've been using because I learned that from another teacher about this subject, and I want to share it with you. First is to give. We give our first fruits. And for those who are not believers, hey, yeah, you're off the hook. But at the same time, why don't you start with maybe there's a organization, there's a cause that you're passionate about. You start allocating some to giving and see what happens. The second is taxes. I know this is a little tricky because most of us, when we get our paychecks, our taxes are withheld. So it doesn't really matter, but if you're running your own business, this would be the order. The third is our fixed costs, right? Our monthly rent, our utility bills, your cable, not cable, yeah, it could be cable, but I would call that more discretionary, or internet, utilities, all that. And then you pay your debt. And here I want to just clarify, when I say debt, if you have credit card debt, that's really like old credit card debt that you're paying off, not like things that you're paying your monthly spending with. And then you save. You save some money, doesn't matter how small. You build a principle of saving. And then with what's left, we spend. We spend within our means. Now, this was really groundbreaking for me because what I used to do was pretty much what the trend has always been, what everybody else kind of does. Well, maybe I'm just especially irresponsible. First, of course, we pay taxes. Secondly, we pay our bills. We pay our rent. We pay our debt. So this order is very similar. And then from there, we are going to spend. We're going to spend on what we want. And if we don't have enough left for the thing that we want, we might even incur credit card debt to buy that. And from there, if you have any left, maybe you'll save a little. And from there, if you still have any left, maybe you'll give to something. Now, I just want to highlight here, it's not necessarily, you know, the spend and give order that's flipped, that's the highlight. It's really on the green box what it really signifies, right? So this order signifies, number one, you're responsible with your finances, you're paying your debt, you're saving, right? You're providing for your family, making sure the rent is paid. You're saving, meaning you're preparing for the unknown. And to spend with what we have signifies living within our means, which is something that, let's admit, like a lot of people have a hard time doing. So I will show you later how this order can be budgeted like into your budgeting tool. But yeah, speaking of budgeting tools, I want to make sure that whatever budgeting tools you're using, that you will make it work for you. That's going to actually help you really see the flow of your money. There are two things, and there's one is make sure that you're budgeting based on when you're getting paid. Now, it seems pretty straightforward, but the reason why I mention this is because frequently people say, hey, you know, I make this much a month and I spend this much a month, so it should work. Or I make this much a year and, you know, I spend this much a year, so the numbers should work. However, let's say you're getting paid twice a month. And as I think generally, as you know, it's usually the first half of the month that you have the bigger expenses, like with rent, all the bills, like come through in the beginning. So you actually have to make sure that you have more available in that first part of the month to be able to pay everything. While, yeah, you're going to have more left in the second half, but also know that, hey, you're going to need that extra to pay the rent next month in the next pay cycle. And then related to that, you want your budget to project at least 3 months out. That's because we usually don't think about what's not regular, like what doesn't happen normally. So you want to plan for something that's anticipated but not always occurring. So you might have like a birthday party of a friend or friends. You might have to travel. And sometimes you can't even plan for some things like medical bills that you didn't anticipate. Okay, so we're going to talk about some examples of a budgeting tool. First is, I will share with you shortly kind of what a budgeting spreadsheet could look like. It's something I built. So if you want to use it, you're more than welcome to. By the way, we are going to share with you the links to all the links that we share here and the link to the presentation. So right now, don't worry about it. I just want you to kind of go through it with me, and then we'll give you the opportunity to download. And then right these days, I mean, so before all the apps started coming out, like I'm old school, so like I had a spreadsheet, so I didn't really think about apps, but these days there are so many great budgeting apps. And some of the big names, I think the well-known ones are Mint, and there's another company called Tiller, and then there are different budgeting apps for different purposes. One of them would be like, hey, if you have debt, like how can you pay it off? So let's go to the budget model real quick. I just want to show you the layout. No numbers yet. Okay. Where is it? Can you guys see it? Okay, great. So if I can enlarge this. No, I can't. So here we talked about 3 months out, right? So you kind of start from where you are and you schedule 3 months out. And then you always start with like a bank balance, like where you're starting. So if you have like $1,000 in the bank, that's what you would put in there, right? And then you're gonna list, hey, what is coming in? What's your income? And from there, you can list just in order of what we talked about, giving, taxes. And and then your monthly expenses, and then, yeah, some of your debt. And then you want to save, right? And then, so like after that, you go, okay, how much do I have left to save and spend? And from there you save, and then you start putting in what you're spending on. And here I'm being as detailed as possible because sometimes I don't even know where I'm spending money on. So every time I try to like compare what I have budgeted versus what I have in the bank at the end of the month, and they don't really match up, I'm like, oh, where did the money go? Right? So I try to be as detailed as possible, especially when you're kind of starting to do it, because it really builds good discipline. Let's see what is next.
I'll just interject real quick, Minnie. Yeah. Guys, we're gonna move along through some different topics, and we'll get to questions at the end. But as she goes along, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. You can do it directly to me if it's a private kind of question, or you can just ask it to everyone, and we'll take some of those questions at the end. But Minnie, thank you for that general overview. Let's shift to our lives like now, because now is kind of what's on everyone's mind. How has the shelter in place changed the way we spend our money, and how does it or should it impact our budget?
Yeah, great question, Ben. Yeah, let's just kind of look. I mean, some things just seem very, very straightforward, but let's just kind of organize our heads and see, yeah, what is changing. First of all, let's just think about, hey, where are we spending less? I mean, there are opportunities to save here. I think more than we think. We keep thinking about like, oh, there may not be enough or things are tough, but I think it's good to just kind of review, hey, we're not gonna spend money as much on public transportation. We're commuting less, if at all. If you have a car, you're not driving much, so you're definitely not spending on gas. We're not spending as much on dining out or any leisure activities. If you have a gym membership, they should not be charging you, by the way. Yeah, that goes away. And even, you know, the money we spend at work for lunch, unless, you know, your company provides for that, which is awesome. And even just like coffee, like the things that we just like spend when we're out. It's really easy to do that, so we can save there. However, now there are just some things that we're going to spend more on because of the nature of where we are. We're going to spend more on groceries and supplies. Yeah, obviously supplies, because toilet paper is really in need these days. We are going to be home more. Everybody's home consuming energy. Everybody's on the internet. Everybody, you know, we're going to use more, yeah, like heat. If things get cold, you're indoors all day. And then, although this will not be regular, but you're going to probably, if you haven't already, you're going to purchase some things that's going to help you work from home more effectively. Now, there are some more opportunities to save. You can be really proactive about it, taking advantage of these situations. One is car insurance. Take advantage of the fact that, hey, you're not driving as much. Call up your insurance broker and say, hey, can we make an adjustment? Also, because the interest rates are very low these days, it's a great time to consolidate your debt, even refinance your existing mortgage. So.
Yeah, Minnie, it seems like there are some opportunities for some of us perhaps to save, but what about people who have had their income like absolutely affected during this time, just like as we're reading about millions of people have?
Yes, and sorry I missed that timing. I flipped that slide before you asked, but yeah, this is the really, really tough part. I see somebody raise their hand. If you have a question, feel free to, yeah, first kind of type it into chat and we'll be happy to answer it. We'll have a question and answer section very soon. Thank you. Yeah, the first thing that is that's naturally that could be done, yeah, fairly easily is that you adjust your giving. I mean, God says, hey, we give according to what we've been given. So if you're not making any, you don't have to give. You're making less, you give less. And then, yeah, if you have lost your income, I think a lot of people are aware of it, but I've also noticed that a lot of people are also not aware of it, is the rent moratorium. This order, as of now, expires May 22nd, so I just encourage you to make sure that you talk to your landlord as soon as possible. And what's really agonizing is that landlords are supposed to actually like notify you on this and give you this, give you this opportunity. But from what we hear, both on residential and commercial level, it's just not being done. And you know that you have the right to talk about this, and that it will be ideal if you can propose and you and the landlord can agree on a payment plan. I'll kind of go over how you can kind of work on a payment plan when we go over the budget later. But yeah, so the link here will provide to you. Yeah, there is also a sample letter. So you're going to be equipped to be able to ask for this to your landlord. So if you haven't done that yet, please do so. I mentioned this earlier before, but hey, if you if you have debt that you can refinance, that you can do a payment plan on, just even with the rent thing, right? Like same thing here. Like remember that the banks and your landlords need your payment just as much as like you need a payment plan. Meaning like, hey, if the bank the bank doesn't want to write you off. That's what I really want to say. So you can have a conversation with them. You are in a negotiating position. So don't feel like, oh, well, nobody's going to listen or things are not going to work out. Just know that, yeah, they need you as much as you need them. And first thing, and lastly, I want to talk about like how we can maximize every possible income source. Any help that we can get, we want to go after it. I know a lot of you have filed for unemployment. A lot of you, yeah, have heard about the stimulus checks. Some of you may have received it. Some of you may have not. There has been a lot of delays and confusion. It is very, very frustrating. But we can only do what we can do. We need to go after, we can try our best, and then the rest is really up to God. And when you are budgeting, I wouldn't like put that as like a part of the plan. So plan as is. So it's really gravy when you get it and you can then like reshuffle things around. If you have a tax refund that's due, and I know there is an extension on your taxes, right? You file and pay by July 15th. But if there's a refund due, hey, this is time to do it. If you haven't done so already, make so you can file as soon as possible. However, if you have something, if you owe money to the government, enjoy the extension. Yeah, just drag it out till July 15th. And thirdly, this is you might think that this is not like, oh, it's not enough, but I think every bit helps. So Epic has been and is offering help with groceries and supplies. And the way it works is that, hey, we send you like gift cards, e-gift cards. And let's say for a family of 4, if you get help for 6 weeks, it's $1,200. And, that really helps. It's not a small amount of money. So please take advantage of it. And I know right now, I didn't list it here. I know right now it's a difficult time to even look for jobs, but you know, there's something to be said about sowing the seed now. So yeah, not feeling discouraged about it and just kind of doing what we can do to look for jobs. You know, I think, yeah, keeping our mind sharp in that way would be really important. Okay, so we talked about a lot of things and items, right? So here I just want to kind of switch back to our budget model and walk through with you. Okay, so how does it work? How does it look like if we reflect the things that we talked about? And I'm going to try to be, okay, so we have about, okay, 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to find a way to be fast, but not too fast, right? So if you populated your budget, this is just a total, like, you know, fictitious scenario, it'll look something like this, right? So your income comes in, your giving, rent, all these different costs. So if I just scroll it down, right? So after every period, you kind of have your ending balance, what you can anticipate to see in your bank. And then that's the starting point for the next period, right? Now, this is, let's say this is the before quarantine, shelter in place scenario. And here, let's say this is the after. So we're gonna kind of like just go through like what may change. All right, so we're kind of going back, but so since it started, we talked about, okay, so let's just start with utilities. If you're paying 150 before, maybe it'll go up by, I don't know, I'm just going to, let's say 20%, so that 25%, so that's, well, let's just say 20%, that's just easier math. So let's say it goes up to 180, so that changes, right, for the rest of the months, not knowing when we'll go back to work. Here, like our Clipper card or equivalent, let's say you're still going somewhere, so you are spending $40 instead of 80. You're not paying gym membership, so that goes away. And then you're really not going to places, so maybe your need for any like miscellaneous cash is really reduced. So let's say it's just 20. Yeah, so groceries, I don't know, maybe you spend $30 more. Maybe, we'll just leave personal goods as is. And the meals at work, you're not spending that. Uber, Lyft, I mean, you may still have to go somewhere. So let's say you spend, I know, like 40. And yeah, I call it the fun fund. If you like want to go out, do stuff. You're not going out, but you can still kind of have fun. So you can like order on-demand movies and you can order food, but you're just not doing it as much. Let's say it just cuts by half. And apparently there was going to be some travel plans, but that's not happening. So that you don't have to do. So here you see like the number is going to go up. Is there anything I'm missing here? However, now let's say, you know, the tough part is, hey, what happens when our income is reduced? Let's say starting this period, your income is reduced by half. Right, so what happens here is that you know that by, you know, July, I guess mid-July, oh, you're going to be in the negative. Okay, so what are we to do? So here, giving automatically adjusted. Are there anything else you can do? Hey, if this is old debt credit card, can you renegotiate something so that you can pay less, you know, even if it's $100 less a month? That seems to help a little bit. Now let's talk about the rent moratorium. If you haven't done that yet, maybe you can talk to your landlord. And I put a little worksheet in here. So if you negotiated your rent even to like a half, right? And said, hey, what if I pay you half for the next 2 months, right? But I will pay it back by November 22nd. By the way, that is part of the order. You have time to pay it back till November 22nd. And you say, hey, over 3 months, I'll pay it back and you will be made whole to the landlord by November 22nd. Right, so let's say, so the negotiated rate is half of that, 900. So this is what you will end up paying monthly, June and July. And then you start paying regular rent and then you start paying back the additional. So like, of course, the weight increases in those later months, but hey, you know, we can be hopeful that by then things are sort of back to normal. You know, there is a new job, whatever it is. And if that doesn't work, right, there's still means to figure it out, right? So at least you have a plan, you have numbers before you. So once you make that change, okay, till July, things look pretty good. I mean, yeah, there's enough cash. Sometimes I like to plan out even longer because there are just things at stake, right? So you will see here, as you start paying back, the negative goes up, don't stress. But here you can say, hey, what if, you know, by September 15th, my job does go back to normal, right? There are still some times that are going to be negative, and you know, you can further, you can further make adjustments. Maybe you say, well, you try to pay it back, you know, not in 3 months, over 3 months, but 2 months. So you're just kind of delaying the payments to later. So this is kind of how I go through my budgeting process, is iteration, is testing things out and see, well, wow, I'm still in the negative. Where else can I save? You know, oh, maybe like because this time is really tough, maybe I save a little less, you know, and maybe you have savings that you could use against the negative. So that's why savings are also important. So this is kind of something I just wanted to show you, and you can play around with it on your own, and you're more than welcome to email me with any questions. All right. Okay, now that we've gone through that, how's everybody doing? And I would love to take questions if you have any.
Minnie, one question that I received just said, you know, for a person who's been giving faithfully, they've had a, you know, the job's been fine, they lose some of their income. They're asking, like, is it a loss of faith in God if they begin to give less? I mean, I think I know your thoughts on this, but yeah, how would you direct anyone who's thinking about that? I mean, we all wish we could give more, right? No matter losing job or not. I wish I could give so much more. But yeah, how would you address that question about? I think thinking about it like a loss, like you would think about a gain. But what's your take on that?
So just to make sure I understand the question, it's like if your income is lower,
they would love to keep giving what they were giving, but they probably can't. Is
okay.
that a lack of faith on their end?
No, not at all. I mean, God, you know, I mean, I don't know. God is not like this person who's like, okay, let's see, you know, how much you give, right? Like and we talked about proportional giving, right? Like he expects us to give based on what we are given, right? And God knows what he has given you, right? So if you are going to, you know, have to give less because you are earning less, I don't think there's anything against like your faith. I think it's actually very in accordance to your faith and what God asks of us. So I don't think there needs to be any guilt. Like, like we talked about before, when we plan and designate and we do according to what we know, what God says, there's no need to feel guilt. There's freedom in that.
No, that's super helpful. Second question, could you go through the rationale for the order of budget? Specifically, someone's asking, what does the Bible say about taxes and why that would come after tithing?
I love that question. Yes, because I wrestled with that too. Okay, so in my limited Bible knowledge, one and only part that made me realize, to help me think, oh wait, okay, I think giving to God comes first is when, and Ben, I mean, you can totally correct me if I'm wrong, but is when the Pharisees asked Jesus, hey, is it right to pay taxes? Right? And what does Jesus say to that? He said, hey, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God. And here, he doesn't say give God first and give to Caesar's, right? He's basically saying, hey, you're paying taxes, but also don't forget, we give to God what's God, right? And to me, it was basically like, oh, knowing what I know, God comes first in my life, right? So if you're putting taxes against giving to God, I think the same priority applies when it comes to money. If I say God comes first, so that's how I see it. But that's also, I don't want to be so legalistic about it either, because I think giving also is in different kind of stages in our lives. And so people say, hey, do we give out of net, give out of gross? But I think that's a journey that God will lead you through, not necessarily oh, you got to do this, that. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this is your growth lab, so so good.
It's kind of hard when your pastor is listening to you talking about the Bible.
No, I think that's no, I love this. I think that's great. I think one of the things that's challenging in our culture, and we don't need to to your point, we don't need to overthink it, is kind of the automation aspect. So I'm not getting handed my income and then I take some to church, then I take some to pay the Roman tax collector, right? I think it is about where is that in our heart as opposed to the legalism. Yeah, that's good. Well, moving along, anything, I know so many of us are just in survival mode maybe in this season, but anything about kind of that next move towards saving, investing, is that even something to consider?
Yes. Yeah, great question. Yeah, it's very easy for us to think in this season, oh, dude, saving, investing, whatever. I get it. Totally understandable. And yeah, and some of you, it's probably not the time, but let's talk about savings first, because I think this is super important. And I want to highlight this because I have made the mistake myself. All right. So let's talk about savings. It's hey, they say save for a rainy day. And I think it's been raining, figuratively, right? And okay, let's think about this. So if somebody had saved $25 every time they get paid, and then they get paid twice a month, and they did that for 3 years, that person will have $1,800 in the bank. Now, in these times, wow, that is 1 month's rent right there. I mean, just from the example that we talked about. I don't know what city that is. Right, so, hey, that, a little bit of discipline, $25 every time we get paid, over time could really be useful. So, as you work out your budget, if there is room, even if it's $10 to start with, I think it is wise to start saving for your future now. And we can talk about investment a little bit, only because this market situation provides some opportunity. And let me just caveat that by saying I'm not an expert. This is just something that I'm hearing from other experts, and I'm kind of looking into it myself. And I think the first thing is like really important. Doesn't matter what season, right? So when you decide to invest and when you are investing, you really want to have a long-term view. This matches with the premeditated and the designated part, right? And what we've seen in the market these past eight weeks or so, just panic, up and down, and like there's no even like rationality behind them. And I believe that's all driven by greed and fear. And that is just not the place we play in. We don't want to play in that. So yeah, when you want to invest, really have that long-term view, so that when things go up and down, you're just not as shaken as much, because you're like, well, I know what I invested in. I'm really in for the long haul, so I can focus on something just better, like family, friends. And the second thing is, there are some opportunities here if you're interested in kind of starting something. Stock prices are lower, so if you want to focus on higher quality and even dividend paying stocks, this timing provides you a lower cost entry point. And when it comes to mutual funds, there's all sorts of different kinds of mutual funds. I only listed this because I just thought like the thought of it was fun. As we kind of like, hey, think about the future. Well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but hey, there are industry-based mutual funds. So we think about like, oh, well, I'm not going to give you any like tips here because, I don't want to influence anybody, but like, hey, just think like, oh, what industries will be impacted, right, and how, positively, negatively, based on kind of what we're seeing here. And maybe these are the questions that you can ask an expert, an investment advisor, so that that person can kind of direct you to some of these stock or mutual funds that kind of present that opportunity. That's really all I have to say about that. All right. So final questions, if there are any more, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, one person was asking, they live in San Mateo, and they were just curious if the eviction order applied there. Trying to be your good assistant, I did some quick Googling, and it looks like it does. I'll try to share that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, it's Bay Area. I mean, the dates may be a little different, but I think that just because the whole California has a rent moratorium. So if you're in California, you can take advantage of that. And I'm sure there are other states doing that too, but I'm not aware of them.
Awesome. Well, Minnie, is there anything else that you want everyone to know before we go tonight?
Okay, we've covered a lot. And I just want us to kind of, just kind of remember where we started. Oh, hold on. Yeah. So before we end, I want to just kind of give you a fun challenge. And the reason why I thought about this, because, when I am discouraged, because there are a lot of worries, and I'm thinking about myself, right? Like I'm just kind of wrapped up in like, oh, just worrying about some things about myself. I think one of the best ways for me to kind of get out of that is to actually shift my focus onto other people. And, because we learned that we can plan for generosity, we can actually plan for some spontaneity too. So what if, hey, we carry like a $10 pharmacy or Target gift card. So when we're walking, we see people living on the street, we can be a blessing to them. And to some of you, that may mean, oh, I could do one a month. That's great. Yeah, it all depends on what can your budget model absorb. And another way to do that too, is it doesn't have to be money related, right? There are so many serving opportunities in the city. There are food pantries all over the city in different neighborhoods where you can serve and be a blessing to others. And that's how I would kind of like, recommend like planting a seed towards your future. And just to recap, hey, let's remember where it all started from. God's intention for us, God's will for you with your life, including your financial life, is freedom. It's based on his generosity. And when we plan based on that and we do them, it'll take time, it'll take practice, it'll definitely take prayer. But I believe that it will give you a lot of freedom. You're looking at a living example. And I just want to, encourage you with this final verse. I don't think people quote this a lot, but like I just thought this was like so perfect to like wrap it all up. It says, and I'm praying that you will put into action the generosity that comes from your faith as you understand and experience. You're going to experience some amazing things as you did this, by the way. All the good things we have in Christ. Thank you very much.
You crushed it tonight. Thank you so much, Minnie. And I tell you guys this, like, not only does she oversee this for our church, but this is not the pastor speaking. This is just a friend of hers who needs financial advice as I'm trying to raise 4 kids and think about this future and all of that. She's gold when it comes to this kind of wisdom. And so my encouragement is to reach out to her. I know that she has limited time, but she'd love to hear from you. I know others of you have questions, and she would love to be able to help out. Minnie, I know that oftentimes we realize that what our natural abilities are, they're things that come easier to us, and we think they would come easy to everyone else. So I just want you to know, like, this isn't, it may not be rocket science to you, but this is enlightening to the rest of us, and we're super grateful for you.
Thank you so much. Actually, I tried to copy some of the links here. I don't know if you guys got it. But we'll make sure you get it. So thank you guys so much, and have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.
Brain a little bit.
Thanks for the time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.